morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not exactly sure how to describe accurately the employment report that we got this morning. I was on Stocks and Jocks when it came out, and it literally took my breath away. The official number was terrible. It, in fact, was the worst month-over-month change since the 1970s, to put perspective on this. Worse than anything we saw in 2000 during that crash, worse than anything we saw during the Great Financial Crisis. But that's not really the worst news of it. The household survey was skewed by 2 days, because it always is, over the establishment survey. There's a slight misalignment in the sampling days. The household survey is the one that I use for all of my work and have been since I started following this thing back when I was running my internet company. And it shows that we lost 3 million jobs. And what's worse is that the dates of that part of the survey mean that we only caught 10% of it. Now, with that much of a delta, the confidence band on this is rather wide, to put it mildly. But this means that we have already lost almost 30 million jobs in America. Folks, that's a fifth of the economy. 1/5. We have 150 million people employed in the United States. Well, we did. I can't even put numbers on this. And the bigger problem isn't just the headline numbers or what they're going to show next month. It's the internals. Professional and business services had a terrible number in temporary help. Okay. We had losses in retail trade, leisure and hospitality essentially collapsed. By the way, collapsed is the correct word. All of the gains over the previous 2 years have disappeared. And again, we only caught 10% of this. Best estimate is that 5 million people in that area are out of work. A third of those jobs are gone forever. And then we have healthcare. Folks, you can try to claim that this is going to come roaring back and bounce back. You're not contemplating what we are facing down, what we're staring at, and what our policies are doing. We've been putting 30,000 people a month to work in healthcare offices for the last 10 years. We lost, despite the coronavirus, remember, drives up healthcare utilization, hospitals, all this. Despite that, we have lost, last month, 40,000 jobs in healthcare offices. Yeah, I get it. If you're in New York in the emergency department, you're really busy. I get that. How many of our citizens rely on everyday health care to stay healthy, to stay alive, to stay productive? These offices are closed. They're non-essential. And even if they weren't, you've scared the living bejesus out of people to the point that they won't go anymore. We are a very ill population in general. We have been for a long time. I've raised a lot of hell about this over the years in my column. but we have built an entire society that is pop a pill, go to the doc, it'll be okay. That system is now threatened with collapse. And it is too distributed and too diffuse for the government to step in and prop it up. You know, I had somebody, there was somebody on one of the, I don't know who it was, I don't remember. It was talking about, well, you know, we could do MASH units. There's 100,000 military members that are in the medical corps. Folks, those people are trained in fixing gunshot wounds. Okay, I mean, that's what they do. These aren't gunshots. Folks, that's not what this is. Never mind that 100,000 is less than, it's double what we captured in this month, but it's what? A fifth of what's actually happened already so far? You couldn't fix this with that if you tried. The models that predicted that the hospitals in New York would be swamped, they were wrong. Fauci's model predicted something like 3 times the occupancy in hospitals with COVID patients as of today as what's actually occurred. I get it. Death is bad. It's always bad. I've buried virtually every single person in my own family. There's only a few of us left. When I pass, my name will die with me. I have no son. There's nothing I can do about it. That's just the way it is. We have things we can do that will mitigate some of the damage that this virus will cause. We can use prophylaxis for healthcare workers and the people at risk. We know we can do that. People take hydroxychloroquine for prophylaxis when they go into malarial areas for a few months. They can do this. They can shelter in place if they want. They can have everybody in their family and their associates who wants to stay in the same house with them shelter in place too. They can go to Walmart, do their online ordering for their groceries, pull up to the door, have somebody put the bags in the trunk of the car, and drive back home. They can do that. We can decide that that is how we're going to handle this, that those people who are at the highest risk, at the abnormal risk, the 98% of the people who die, 98%, folks, are in those categories, according to New York statistics. 98%. Those people can choose to self-isolate. And the rest of us go back to work. We have to accept that we're all probably going to get this virus. Suppressing the rate of transmission is not going to stop you from getting it. It's just going to stretch it out and compound the economic damage. If we sit through another 2, 3, 4 weeks, 2 months of these shutdowns, are you going to be willing to go back to a bar or a restaurant, or are you going to be so paralyzed with fear that you won't get within 6 foot of another human being? Our entire economy is at risk of collapse. And by the way, when that happens, do you really think that we'll avoid some critical supply chain disruption? Where'd you get that idea from? The last bastion of thinking that we could cut off the vector in the healthcare sector, which I've been a pretty strong proponent of. I thought that was one of the factors that if we took care of it, we might be able to stop this thing. That's gone down the toilet too, and that's Singapore. They've given up. They're going to lock the doors. Folks, we can't lock the doors. We have too interconnected of an economy. We have a people that right now are literally scared of their own shadow. Yesterday, Walton County right over from here. Literally, the county commission banned people from sitting in their own backyard. I'm not kidding. They really did that. That's insane. Because it has a pretty view. It's a beach. But it's private land. These are not people all mingling and having parties. These are people that own property. They're sitting in their backyard, making the best of a bad situation. And they've just been told, no, you're under house arrest. You must stay inside. Not stay on your own property, not don't interact with people who aren't in your housing unit, who you're going to interact and be around anyway. Good God, folks, if there's one thing that's good for you, whether you're sick or not, it's being outside, getting some vitamin D and some fresh air. But that's now illegal. We have a county here that's actually done that. Here in Florida, it's illegal. Unbelievable. This must stop. I know, look, folks, it's a bad bug, okay? Don't get me wrong. There isn't going to be a vaccine in enough time to matter. We break the cohesiveness and the social contract, if you will, that says that I can go to a restaurant and have a meal, or I can travel and go somewhere and spend money. I can actually have something other than sitting in my house. Something other than sitting in my house. How much of the economy collapses? 80%? What happens to the oil refinery which you need the diesel out of, by the way, to run the truck? Oh yeah, we have all this gasoline. What happens when the tank's full? All these things that are interconnected. People think, oh no, there's no interconnection. Folks, we already saw the stupid one, okay? They shut down the funerals in New York. And now they have mortuaries that are full because there's nowhere for the bodies to go. The morgue in the hospital, okay? They're literally bringing in freezer trucks to put people in because they shut down the process of burying and cremating people and having funerals. That was so obvious that anybody with two neurons in their head to rub together could figure this out. And yet, that one got missed. Well, now all of a sudden so we're just going to stack everybody up. Okay, how many more of these kinds of things are going to happen? And when is it going to be something that's important? When is it going to be a ball bearing that you have to replace in a generator at a power station? The factory's closed. It'll take a month to get it started back up and start making things again. During that time, you have no power. How many people die then? You think this kind of thing won't happen? I don't know where it's going to come from. I mean, that's a hypothetical, obviously, but I don't know where it's going to come from. But if you think it won't, you're wrong. And even if it doesn't, and Fauci and Birx and all these, Fauci admitted 18 months. The models I ran said that most conservative estimate is that we'd hit the herd immunity with repression measures in place, assuming they work, which today they don't, but assuming you could get them to work. 12 months. And then you'd hit the herd immunity for them, and as soon as you drop them, the virus would come right back and kill everybody it was going to kill anyway. Which means you haven't done a damn thing. There won't be a country left in 12 months, of course. Won't be a country left in 3. How far does it go before just one thing breaks, folks? How far? Because you know what? If we lose that, if that happens, and good God, I pray it does not, but if it does, you're never going to get back what you had. Never. If that occurs, there is no return to what we used to have. There are people in this country, like Andrew Cuomo, who thinks that that's how it should be. Newsom has made statements that are very similar to that. That this is going to be permanently changed. Well, you know what permanently changed means to you and I and everybody else, folks? It means that these job losses that we're talking about, they're not temporary, they're permanent. They're never coming back. The economy is never coming back because that is what things will never be the same is. You scare the ever-loving hell out of everybody. You can open all the bars and restaurants tomorrow, but if there are no customers, what's going to happen to those jobs? If you won't dare go to the hair salon because you're afraid of getting a virus and dying, what happens to the people who used to cut your hair? What happens to all the servers? If you won't go out for a hike on the Appalachian Trail because you're afraid that somebody might give you coronavirus, well, how about the hotel that you used to stay in? What happens to it? What happens to all the people that used to work in it? Folks, we can't do this. I understand that the possibility of having many people die, it's terrible. But folks, as I pointed out yesterday, 7,700 people a day are being deprived of basic human dignities in the United States right now that they can never get back. And the reason they can never get them back is that they're dead. 7,700 people a day. Yeah, we had some people that died yesterday of coronavirus, but it was a lot less than 7,700. We have put somewhere around 125 to 130,000 people in the hole in the United States, almost none of them from coronavirus, and all of them whom we have deprived of their normal human dignities in that last 3 weeks of their life. And we have so-called civil authorities that every one of us laps up like dogs. They have the right to do this because, by God, out of an abundance of caution, someone might get sick. And I'm a monster for suggesting that, oh, by the way, you're not going to avoid this. Well, those are the facts, folks. You're not going to avoid this. You're going to get it. I'm going to get it. We're all going to get it. I wish there was a way to not get it. But we're going to get it. We must take that as our base case. If we change it down the road, then, well, bully for us. But you know what? The odds are against that. Even the most aggressive estimates are we won't have a vaccine for 18 months. Can you sit in your house, and how many people will you kill if you do? Because the ordinary health care that a significant percentage of our population relies on to stay healthy and alive is closed. It's closed. Think about that, folks. The ordinary things, they're gone. And when they come back, will you be willing to sit in the waiting room to have your teeth cleaned? You're not 6 feet away. Will you be willing to go to the doctor? You're not 6 feet away. Can you maintain all of that? Nope, not at prayer in hell. Can the doctor see you without being within 6 feet? Obviously not. What if he's got coronavirus? What if he's not symptomatic yet? You can get it for 3 or 4 days from somebody before they get sick. That's the level of fear that we've inculcated into everybody in this country right here, right now, today. You think that's not going to change consumer behavior forever? You know, the Great Depression, folks, changed consumer behavior for 50 years. It changed what my parents were willing to do. It changed the way my father looked at money and the way that he looked at spending and investing and everything else. He grew up in the Depression. So did my mother. She considered the mere act of going to a restaurant and having somebody bring her a plate of food to be an unspeakable luxury. That was 50, 60 years later. Do you really think that what we're doing now isn't going to have that kind of carry forward effect if we keep this up? It most certainly will. This madness must end. It must end now. I don't care what Fauci thinks. I don't care what Birx thinks. I really don't care about their models. They're no good. We already know that. Their predictions have been wrong. Already proved. I get it. It's a bad bug. But this isn't smallpox. It's not SARS. It's not Marburg. It's not even polio. No. And by the way, we have a vaccine for polio. But we didn't have one for a long time. We locked down people. We quarantined them. We shut down all sorts of things. And we never stopped it until we got a vaccine. It kept coming back. Why did it keep coming back? Because that's just how viruses work. Especially ones that you can transmit before you get sick. That's why today when you get the polio vaccine, if you live in an area where there's still the possibility of transmittal to people who are not vaccinated, you get both. Because when you get the injected form, if you get it, it can still be shed in your feces, and somebody who's unvaccinated can get actual polio. You don't get sick, but somebody else can. Well, guess what? That same sort of thing goes on here. You get this bug, you don't get sick, but you can pass it on. And folks, without the vaccine, we never would have gotten rid of polio. All those iron lungs, all those people walking around in braces, and people in wheelchairs. Hell, we had a president who was confined to a wheelchair as a result of it. This is not that sort of a bug. 2%, ladies and gentlemen, 2% of those people who have died in New York did not have one of a list of pre-existing conditions. If you're one of those people, you need to make a very difficult decision for yourself, personally. Do you shelter in place? Do you hide in a bunker along with everybody in your household? And you throw those people who won't do it out? Or do you attempt prophylaxis with an unproven but possible means? That's the hydroxychloroquine. And take your chances if you can take it. But that is your decision to make. Everybody else, well, we still do have a risk of dying. It absolutely is there. Listen, there's we got 1,145 people who died with one of those pre-existing conditions in New York so far, and there have been 24 that have died without, including 3 that were older than 75. 3. And yet we're told, if you're older, 65 to 74 without one of those pre-existing conditions, 1 death. 1. 45 to 64, 13. Well, now you're getting my attention. But with one of those pre-existing conditions, 304. And yet we've closed down the entire economy instead of telling those people that are at high risk to take mitigating steps for themselves and for those around them. And we are inculcating people into a nation of fear. A nation where we actually have people in Kentucky, I don't know if it's the mayor of Louisville or it's the governor, who are actually putting ankle bracelets on people to enforce compliance with being locked in their homes. House arrest. These are people who literally, folks, if you think this isn't house arrest, what is an ankle monitor? That's house arrest. Do you think that's a joke? That's what we're doing. You really think you're going to go back to the bars and the restaurants a month or 2 months from now after you've been told that everybody that gets within 6 feet of you could kill you? No, you're not. No, you're not. Not for years. The economy's not going to go back to normal unless we stop this now. And even then, the damage is real and lasting. But do you want that damage to last for 6 months or a year, or do you want it to last for 10? Because that's the choice now. We've already made the bad decision that's led to at least a year of severely depressed GDP and severely depressed tax funding. And by the way, that is going to filter through into municipal services, including health care. If we turn this into a 10-year-long depression, which is the road we are on, it is going to fundamentally change America. And if you're one of those people that's at high risk right now, I hope you're prepared to die. Not of the virus. This is not a joke. The internals in this report make clear exactly what's going on. This must stop.